My story today is called The Legend of Spooky, the Square Pumpkin. Remember, the author writes the words and the illustrator draws the pictures. One day in the pumpkin patch, the strangest little pumpkin hatched. Spookley wasn't like his friends. Where they had curves, he had ends. Spooky was different. He was odd. He was rare. Spooky, the pumpkin, wasn't round, but he was square. While the round pumpkins had fun rolling around, poor Spookley sat there shaped all wrong. He tried and tried with all his might, but he couldn't budge. He just sat tight. The other pumpkins teased him because he was square. Spookley wished he was round and could roll everywhere. That is until one night when they all discovered it's fine to be round when the weather is fair, but there are times when it's better to be square. Halloween is just one day away Halloween was just one day away when a mighty storm blew across the bay. It tossed the round pumpkins to and fro. It snapped their vines and off they'd go, bouncing left and slamming right, banging, bashing. What a sight! Spookley sat there filled with fright, but glad to be a square that night. Suddenly, the fence gave way. 3 pumpkins rolled out into the bay. What do you think the bay is? Spookley knew what must be done. It was up to him. He was the one. He teetered, he tottered, he tipped, he tried, and finally flipped on his side. Again he tipped, again he flopped, again he flipped, and then he stopped. Right in the gap where the fence had snapped, he blocked the way the hole was capped. All the pumpkins shouted hooray. Spookley, the square pumpkin, had saved the day. Then a pumpkin hit him with a whack and through his shell. He thought his shell would start to crack. Then another one hit with a thump, another one with a smack. Then one by one, a ton of pumpkins piled on the stack with a bang and a bash and a crunch and a crash, and then it all went black. At dawn, when the storm had stopped, the farmer came out and checked his crop. He picked his pumpkins up one by one and laid them out in the warm, dry sun. When the last was moved away, the farmer could see what saved the day. An odd-shaped pumpkin, short and dense, was wedged against the broken fence. Its shell was bruised, its stem was too, but there was the brave little Spookley, sitting straight and strong and true. Right then and there, the farmer knew of all the seeds he'd ever sown, Spookley's were the most special that he had ever grown. The next year, when it was time to sow, he sowed the seeds in every row. He watered and weeded and watched them grow. And oh, that morning, about mid-June, when the pumpkin patch began to bloom, there were tiny pumpkins everywhere, hundreds and hundreds of them square. But some were cubes and some were rectangular, some were flat and others triangular, but there was a bed of bright red ones and 2 rows of blue. There were polka dot pumpkins and rainbow ones too. There were thousands of colors and hundreds of shapes, and oh, what a garden variety makes. Now, every year on Halloween, Spookley's pumpkin patch is quite the scene. People come from near and far to see what wonders grew that year. They stop, they gawk, they gaze, they stare. Then they pick a pumpkin that's round, triangular, or perfectly square. Now you know the story of how Spookley grew. Maybe someday you'll tell someone too, and they'll go tell someone who'll Go tell another, and maybe one day we'll all discover we can't judge a book or a pumpkin by its cover.